What's going on, everyone? So I talked about kind of a convoluted potential three-team trade with the Miami Heat, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Sacramento Kings. But it all kind of hinges on Jonathan Kuminga going to Sacramento, and then that being the first domino to where they want to move off of a DeMar DeRozan. Talked about maybe the Lakers could work out something to where they land a Keon Ellis, which I think is a little bit of a long shot, but like a Keon Ellis and an Andrew Wiggins, which chef kiss, but realistically, maybe like a Malik Monk and an Andrew Wiggins. You can kind of do something like that, right? Where DeMar DeRozan is going to a team like the Lakers or a team like Miami, might need a fourth team that would be willing to take on like a Dalton Connect or something like that, salary filler, maybe even a Maxi Kleber. But essentially, Lakers have the expiring contracts to kind of work out this deal to where they get a bucket getter off the bench, somebody that can be that kind of sixth-man role for them. Also kind of gives you, if you do end up moving off of a Austin Reeves, not that I'd move Malik Monk into the starting unit, but you can get some of the production in the scoring and playmaking from Malik Monk if that's the route that they end up going, right? And it is kind of this bit of convoluted mess because it all is predicated on Jonathan Kuminga ending up going to a team like Sacramento first, and that's kind of the first domino, and now Sacramento is kind of forced to make this issue, right? However, another kind of alternative that I want to talk about and dive into, because this is a more simplistic, just like even three-team trade. Because Sacramento is a team that has $7.5 million under the first apron, the hard cap. Miami's got tough cap situation. I think they're like $4 million under the first cap, right? So the problem with an Andrew Wiggins trade for the Lakers is you'd have to send out, right? Any Andrew Wiggins trade based on what Miami is asking for would require another team, right? Because you'd have to send out Rui, Gabe Vincent, and Dalton Connect to bring in an Andrew Wiggins because the Lakers they don't have the salary space to bring on and take on any more salary, right? So they'd have to either clear salary, and you got to keep in mind, if they do a 2-for-1 swap, they got to fill that roster spot. So even if the money did wash out, you still wouldn't have enough to fill that roster spot. So the problem with the Andrew Wiggins trade is you'd have to do a Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, or Maxi Kleber, and a Dalton Connect in that type of deal. Well, if Sacramento was to miss out on Jonathan Kuminga, right, the problem is they have Dennis Schroeder, they want to bring in Russell Westbrook. Talking about bringing in guys that are more on ball. They want to move off of a Malik Monk, right? There's still talks about them potentially moving off of a DeMar DeRozan. Well, Miami, if the reports are true and are interested in DeMar DeRozan, that could just be a much cleaner trade for everybody, where DeMar is going to a team like Miami, Andrew Wiggins is going to a team like the Lakers, and then maybe Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, and Gabe Vincent are going to a team like Sacramento, because Sacramento can take on the extra money. They have the difference in salary cap. And now Rui Hachimura gives them that off-ball catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. They get a young guy in, a Dalton Connect, right? If you still want to add a fourth team, you can, to kind of have moving parts and maybe have somebody. But also even Gabe Vincent could make sense for them, or maybe Gabe Vincent is going to Miami, right? There's talks about Miami potentially giving like a Terry Rozier plus 2 seconds in a trade. So maybe that's even going out, right? And maybe Gabe Vincent and some other pieces are going to Miami. But essentially, to keep it simple, right? Because there's all kinds of like moving components, right? Maybe Malik Monk does go to the Lakers and it's like this huge trade. And it's like, Kleber and Gabe Vincent are going to Miami, and, Terry Rozier and a Rui Hachimura and Dalton Connect are going to Sacramento, and the Lakers are getting a Malik Monk and a Andrew Wiggins, right? So there's multiple paths to that, right? Talked about the convoluted, like, craziness version of it, but to keep this version more simple, I think the simplicity would be like, hey, if Miami really wants DeMar DeRozan, like talks are about, then I think you can have like this clean trade, because if they get DeMar DeRozan, he's probably not going to want to come off the bench. And, he's best in that 3 or 4 spot, not really the 2 guard spot. So it's like, and there's already questions like, are they going with, Tyler Hero at the point guard? So I think Andrew Wiggins, they would be more inclined to trade at that point, right? So I think a clean DeMar DeRozan goes to a team like Miami, Lakers take on an Andrew Wiggins, and then, a Rui Hachimura package is sent to the Sacramento Kings. So that way they kind of fill in what they need to fill in as far as catch and shoot three-point shooting, get more kind of wing depth in that regard with the Rui Hachimura. They can kind of gauge and see how is it working, how is it looking. If it works, great. They can re-sign him. All right, they can keep him around long term, give him a new contract. If it doesn't work, they can just let him go, clear 18 million off their books. Whatever components, Dalton Connect, I think could potentially be really good for them as like just that young prospect that they can kind of grow and develop and evolve into that 3-and-D, because that's kind of what they want. They want those floor spacers. If they're bringing in a Russell Westbrook, they already have a Dennis Schroeder, they have a Zach LaVine, they have a DeMontis Sabonis. They already have guys that are going to be on ball. They need guys that can play off ball. Like they need guys that can do other things on the basketball court besides just shoot the basketball. It's why they want to get off of Malik Monk. It's why they want to get off of a DeMar DeRozan, right? Because they think that, okay, we have enough scoring versatility. We're bringing in guards that can actually, create the dribble penetration, score the basketball, do those things. So we don't need guys like a DeMar, like a Malik Monk. Well, that's where, again, the Lakers come in. And, if Miami's interested in a DeMar DeRozan, well, then boom. Now it's a more easier trade because now Miami doesn't have to take on 3 or 4 players. Miami could just do a clean sweep, clean swap for, a DeMar DeRozan for, an Andrew Wiggins essentially. But Andrew Wiggins would be going to the Lakers, and then all of those pieces and components now go on over to Sacramento. And Sacramento, because they have more cap space in the mix, they can bring those guys on, and it makes sense for them because they're getting off of DeMar. They're getting off of, like I said, you could do a more expanded trade with the Malik Monk, and they could get off of all the guys that they want to get off of, and now they're just in much better shape, right? Because they bring in a Russell Westbrook, Sacramento. They bring in a Russell Westbrook. They don't have that need for Malik Monk. I wouldn't hate, again, if you could bring in a Malik Monk and an Andrew Wiggins, perfect world. You bring in Keon Ellis and an Andrew Wiggins, but I just don't think that they're not willing to trade Keon Ellis in the Jonathan Kuminga trade. I don't think that they're going to trade him for Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, right? The reason Austin Reeves is in my mind, because if you were to get a Malik Monk, now if you were to trade Austin Reeves at some point down the road, whether it's this offseason or at the trade deadline or sign and trade him and next offseason, well, then now you have Malik Monk who can kind of, alleviate some of the loss of a Austin Reeves, right? He's a guy that can make plays, score the basketball, right? Handle those on-ball duties, but he's more comfortable and fine coming off the bench. I mean, again, he does it for Sacramento to where now you're not going to have that gripe where Austin Reeves doesn't really want to come off the bench. Austin Reeves wants to be a starter. He wants to get paid, and you're going to have to pay him 30 to 50 million. So again, if the Lakers, I'm not saying that they will or they're going to, but if they were to explore that or do that, you now can do it much more comfortably because, maybe even upgrade the 2-guard spot with a better kind of 2-way guy. So that way you have like a Luka, that 2-way guy, and Andrew Wiggins, or you can upgrade the 3 and move Wiggins to the 2 and go, I'll just use Herb Jones as an example. You could go like, Luka, Wiggins, Herb Jones, LeBron James, and a DeAndre Ayton. And then you have Malik Monk off the bench with Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, or, Jared Vanderbilt, a Dude Thero, right? And then you'd open up roster spots and clear all that stuff off to bring in a Nikola Vucevic or something like that. And now, again, if the Lakers could essentially turn, say, Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, and Dalton Connect into Andrew Wiggins, right, and then a Nikola Vucevic, that alone would be fantastic. But, again, if you want to expand it more, bring in a Malik Monk, then you could do something where you're sending out Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, Dalton Connect, right? And then, the components are being moved to wherever they go. Like I said, maybe Miami wants Gabe Vincent, but a team like Sacramento wants Maxi Kleba, a Rui Hachimura, and a Austin Reeves. So you can send something like that out. Boom, that goes out. And now you have the components. And Sacramento can take on, if they have to take on the extra, say, $4 million of a Dalton Connect's contract, they can do that because they are $7.5 million under the first apron. So they'd still have, $3 million in wiggle room to work with. So they'd still be fine and comfortable in that regard. So they can, so if they have to absorb some extra, some salary, then they can do so, get some pieces that they need that can make some sense, give them some future flexibility. Miami gets the guy that they want in a DeMar DeRozan, right? Maybe they're getting a Gabe Vincent also in the process. Maybe you're throwing in another piece or two, whatever. And then the Lakers essentially would land a Malik Monk and an Andrew Wiggins. Again, perfect world, Keon Ellis and an Andrew Wiggins, kind of just putting that in the universe. But I do think that that would be just a much simpler, cleaner, rather than Jonathan Kuminga goes to Sacramento and then Sacramento does this and then now that, and it just there would be a lot of moving parts based on Sacramento getting Jonathan Kuminga. Well, if Sacramento doesn't get Jonathan Kuminga, then it's as simple as like, okay, now you can do the boom, boom, boom. Right? So now Sacramento works with Miami, Miami works with the Lakers, and you have this 3-team trade. Yes, you could technically do it in individual trades, but I think it'd just be easier and cleaner for all sides to just kind of loop it into one trade, have that done. Everyone washes their hands clean. Sacramento gets some pieces that can help them. Miami gets a guy that they want and have been wanting, and then the Lakers kind of get a guy that makes sense and slots in at their 3, and everyone's involved. If you add in Malik Monk or anything like that, then fine. Otherwise, just clean Wiggins, Rui, Demar type trade, in this 3-team move, and then everyone's happy and it's clean and easy. Now the Lakers don't have to worry about, we got to do this, that, and the other. Miami doesn't have to worry. Everyone happy and all parts are good. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.